Today's show is an inspiring celebration of impossible ideas and the minds brave enough to chase them down.
Absolutely.
Finding passengers bold enough to embark on our good ship's journey is harder than most people think. So drop a very humane thumbs up right now to send a signal flare to drifting knowledge pirates like yourself.
Yeah, we know they're out there.
Let's bring them home. We're keeping it lighthearted as usual, but we promise to never skimp on the intelligence. Now let's kick off this voyage with today's new revelations.
And to really set the stage for these revelations, I mean, we're looking at a very specific snapshot in time today.
Right. We are unpacking a dispatch from Dr. Alex Wisner-Gross's newsletter.
Yeah, the Innermost loop.
Exactly. Specifically the edition from May 8, 2026. And, the mission of this deep dive is to really just, to comprehend a reality where AI has accelerated so violently that it's literally breaking the physical bounds of Earth.
It really is. I mean, what's fascinating here is how humanity is basically scrambling, right? Just scrambling to build the physical scaffolding to support a digital mind that is growing well, exponentially doesn't even cover it.
It doesn't. And it's rewiring our bodies. It's forcing a total rewrite of global geopolitics.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's massive. And the core thread connecting all of these updates from, space stations down to your desktop browser is just the unstoppable momentum of artificial cognition.
So to really wrap our heads around this, let's start at the absolute peak of this arms race.
The physical limitations of planet Earth.
Yeah, because the frontier isn't down here anymore. Anthropic has partnered with SpaceX, and they are taking over the entirety of the Colossus 1 data center in orbit.
Right, floating in space.
Which is just wild. We're talking about unlocking over 300 megawatts of power and deploying over 220,000 Nvidia GPUs up there.
It's a staggering amount of hardware.
But, okay, let's unpack this for a second, because I need you to translate that scale for me. Like, what does 300 megawatts actually look like in practical terms?
Well, to give you a baseline, if you look at a massive, state-of-art commercial data center down here on Earth, it might consume maybe 20 to 50 megawatts.
Okay.
And that's to power the servers, all the networking gear, and crucially, the massive cooling systems.
Right, to keep the whole thing from catching fire.
Exactly. So 300 megawatts, you're basically looking at the energy footprint of a small to mid-sized industrial city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they are sustaining that entirely in the vacuum of low Earth orbit, just singularly dedicated to processing artificial intelligence.
Which immediately makes me wonder, why? I mean, putting fragile electronics into space is so ridiculously hard and expensive.
Oh, astronomically expensive, pun intended.
Right. So why not just buy, 1,000 acres of cheap desert land in Nevada and build it there?
Because honestly, terrestrial infrastructure just can't move fast enough anymore.
What do you mean, like the construction takes too long?
Well, yes, but mostly it's the power grid. If you want to build a 300 megawatt facility today, buying the GPUs is the easy part. The limiting factor is getting the electricity.
Because you have to deal with the local utility companies.
Right. You go to them for a power purchase agreement, and they'll tell you that providing that much uninterrupted power means, building a new substation.
Or upgrading high voltage lines.
Exactly. Maybe even bringing a whole new power plant online, and that takes years. You've got environmental reviews, permitting, the actual construction.
And the AI companies just don't have years to wait.
No, they don't. And then on top of the power issue, you have the cooling constraint down here.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about the thermodynamics of this, because this part blew my mind. Why do these AI chips run so hot that normal air conditioning just fails?
It comes down to the difference between a GPU, a graphics processing unit, and your standard CPU.
The central processing unit.
Right. A CPU is basically like a very fast, very smart executive. It does complex tasks sequentially, one after another, super quickly. But a GPU is designed for parallel processing. It's made of thousands of smaller, simpler cores that handle thousands of calculations at the exact same time.
Which is what you need for AI.
Exactly. Training these models requires matrix multiplication, basically billions of tiny math problems happening simultaneously.
So all those circuits firing at once just draw an insane amount of electrical current.
And physics dictates that a lot of that electrical energy turns into heat. When you pack tens of thousands of these chips into dense racks, the heat density is it's off the charts.
And on Earth, how do we usually deal with that?
We pump millions of gallons of chilled water through the facilities, or we use these massive energy-hogging HVAC systems. But we're kind of running out of easy terrestrial power and fresh water for that.
But wait, in space is a vacuum. There's no air.
Right.
So how do you cool 220,000 melting hot GPUs if there's no air to carry the heat away? You can't just run a fan.
No, you can't use convective cooling. That's the engineering marvel of Colossus 1. They use what's called radiative cooling.
Radiative cooling.
Yeah. They transfer the heat from the GPUs using liquid coolants, and they pump it out to these massive, specialized radiator panels on the outside of the station.
Oh, I see.
And because deep space is near absolute zero, as long as you're out of direct sunlight, those panels just radiate the thermal energy away as infrared light.
That is such a wild visual, like just a silent, floating heat sink in the dark.
It really is. And the crazy thing is, we're already seeing the consumer impact of this offshore compute down here.
Yeah, the newsletter points out that for people using Claude, the rate limits literally doubled instantly. Peak hour throttling for pro users is just dead.
Which is exactly what happens when you suddenly release 300 megawatts of pressure.
For someone listening who maybe hasn't hit a wall with an AI tool, what exactly is rate limiting, mechanically speaking?
It's basically traffic control. AI companies use it so their servers don't just melt down. If millions of people log on at 9 a.m. to have the AI write an email, the terrestrial servers would crash trying to process it all at once.
So they cap it.
Right. They say you can only send 40 messages every 3 hours. And if traffic spikes, they deliberately slow down the responses to spread out the load. It's forced scarcity.
And by hooking up Colossus 1, Anthropic just deleted that scarcity.
Yeah.
It's like bypassing a gridlocked highway by opening a 10-lane skyway.
Yeah, and SpaceXai confirmed this isn't just a test run. They are expanding into, and this is a direct quote, multiple gigawatts of orbital AI compute.
Gigawatts. I mean, that scale is just sobering.
A gigawatt is 1 billion watts. That's the capacity of a large nuclear reactor. And they want to string multiple together in orbit.
Tom Brown, Anthropic's chief compute officer, had a great quote about this. He said it's all simply about moving a lot of atoms.
I love that quote. It reminds you that even though software feels weightless, cognition actually requires physical mass.
Right. It needs silicon, metal, and energy. We're relocating the factory.
Exactly. And this momentum is really showing up in their financials.
Oh, yeah. This is the part I really need you to help me untangle.
Yeah.
Because Dario Amodei revealed Anthropic grew 80x annualized in Q1.
Which is staggering.
They planned for 10x. They beat their own wildest projections by a factor of 8. And that pushed their on-chain pre-IPO valuation to $1.2 trillion.
Just to clarify for the listener, on-chain trading means private equity shares are tokenized and traded on a blockchain before the company actually goes public.
Okay, got it. So it's a real-time market valuation.
Yeah.
But $1.2 trillion before even having an IPO.
It's unprecedented.
But here's where I have to play devil's advocate. The newsletter does this naive ARR, annual recurring revenue extrapolation, and says at this 80x growth, Anthropic absorbs 100% of global GDP in 21 months.
Right. The math gets crazy fast.
But global GDP isn't just software. It's agriculture, it's steel, it's real estate. How can a language model company absorb the entire physical economy? I mean, isn't that just a massive spreadsheet error?
Well, if you apply a traditional software revenue multiple, then yes, your models will completely break.
Because there's a limit to how much software people need.
Exactly. If they were selling, accounting software, the idea of them consuming the GDP is mathematically absurd. But you have to redefine what they're actually selling.
Okay.
The newsletter explicitly states this. The product is cognition itself.
Cognition
Yes.
itself.
They aren't selling a tool for a job. They're selling the underlying mechanism that generates value. Agriculture, steel, healthcare, all of it relies on human cognition to optimize, right?
Right. Human brains figuring out how to make it better.
Exactly. So if you build an artificial system that does that cognitive labor faster and cheaper than human brains, the value of that system scales across every single sector of the economy at once.
Oh, wow. So intelligence is basically the ultimate meta commodity.
Exactly. It's the API for reality. So saying they'll absorb 100% of GDP might be hyperbolic framing, but structurally. If you control generalized intelligence, you capture a cut of the efficiency gains in every industry on the planet.
Okay, when you put it like that, it feels less like a math error and more like an absolute inevitability. And clearly Elon Musk sees it that way too.
Oh, absolutely. The corporate reorganization happening here is just as violent as the physical one.
Right, because the dispatch mentions Musk spent a week on site with Anthropic. He audited them, checked their safety protocols, and basically said, "No one set off my evil detector."
Which is high praise from him.
But then he shut down his own AI company, XAI. He just folded his lab into SpaceX and moved his team to Colossus too.
It's just ruthless pragmatism.
How so?
Well, when you realize that launch capacity and orbital power generation are the actual bottlenecks, why waste time fighting over the algorithm layer if you're behind?
Right.
You merge the best software engine with the only company that can actually build the hardware scaffolding in space.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
But speaking of hardware, if we're shooting 220,000 GPUs into space, those chips have to come from somewhere down here.
Yes, there is no magical silicon mine in orbit.
Right. So who is getting starved out on Earth to feed this space station?
Well, the author describes this as a violent reorganization of silicon, and by violent they mean abrupt and highly disruptive to normal markets.
And the first victim is the enthusiast PC builder.
Yeah, motherboard sales have just collapsed, down over 25%.
So if I want to build a custom gaming rig right now, I'm basically out of luck.
You are being priced out of existence, yes. And it comes down to how these chips are actually made.
At the foundries, right?
Right. Every chip starts as a silicon wafer at a foundry, like TSMC.
Right.
And a foundry can only process so many wafers a month. It's a hard limit.
It's a zero-sum game.
Exactly. If you're Nvidia, you have a choice. Do you use that precious wafer space to print a consumer graphics part and sell it to a gamer for $1,000 with a tiny profit margin? Or do you use the exact same wafer to print an H100 or a Blackwell AI chip and sell it to Microsoft for tens of thousands of dollars with an astronomical margin?
It's a no-brainer. The economics basically mandate that you abandon the consumer.
Yeah, the consumer market is essentially subsidizing this through artificial scarcity. The raw materials are just being violently redirected to enterprise AI.
And the scale of that enterprise stuff is insane. The newsletter talks about Musk's Terafab project down in Texas.
Oh, the budget for that is just mind-blowing.
Right. $55 to $119 billion for one manufacturing complex.
It just shows you how capital-intensive this race has become. You don't just need smart coders anymore. You need sovereign wealth levels of cash just to build the factories that build the chips.
Which explains why ARM, the company that designs the blueprints for phone chips, just doubled their AI revenue guidance to $2 billion for 2027.
The demand models are just completely breaking. Analysts literally can't track the capital deployment fast enough.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. It's not just about making more chips. The actual physical internet connecting these chips is failing.
Yes, the shift from copper to glass.
Nvidia is dropping $3.2 billion into Corning the Gorilla Glass people to build 3 optical fiber plants in the U.S. And the reason given is just copper has run out of bandwidth.
Which is a monumental shift. I mean, copper wire has been the central nervous system of human civilization for over a century.
Okay, let's pause here. I really want to dig into the physics of this. Why is copper suddenly obsolete? I plug my lamp in, the copper wire brings the power, the light turns on, it works perfectly.
Right, but there's a huge difference between transmitting electrical power and transmitting high-frequency data.
Okay, explain that.
When you plug in a lamp, you're just pushing a gross flow of electrons. Copper is great at that. But data is different. Data involves sending complex, high-frequency electrical pulses that represent the ones and zeros of binary code.
So it's like a really fast rhythm pulsing through the wire.
Exactly. And physics has hard limits on that. As that signal travels, it hits resistance. The signal loses strength. That's called attenuation.
Right.
And as you try to push the data even faster, by increasing the frequency, you get electromagnetic interference. The signals bleed into each other.
So the data just gets corrupted.
Exactly. The copper becomes a physical bottleneck. These new AI clusters are processing trillions of parameters a second. The GPUs are just thinking faster than copper cables can actually move the data to the next rack.
So we have to switch to glass, to optical fiber.
Yeah. We have to move from electrons in metal to photons in glass. Because photons don't have that same electromagnetic interference, you can multiplex them.
Meaning what? Sending different colors of light at once?
Precisely. You send multiple streams of data down the exact same strand of glass using different wavelengths of light. It gives you exponentially higher bandwidth and super low latency.
So we are literally forced to reinvent telecommunications just to keep the machines fed. That is crazy.
It is. And on top of that new glass infrastructure, there's another massive shift, and this one is purely behavioral.
You're talking about the MRC protocol.
Right. The newsletter mentions that OpenAI, AMD, Broadcom, Intel, Microsoft, and Nvidia have all jointly open-sourced this new networking protocol.
Which makes no sense at first glance. These are bitter rivals. They spend billions trying to destroy each other. Why hold hands and give away a networking protocol for free?
Because the failure rates at this scale are just incredibly punishing.
How bad does it get?
Well, when you network 100,000 GPUs together for a training run, chips overheat, memory fails, transceivers glitch. If a node fails and the network can't route around it and sync the data, the whole training run crashes.
Oh, man. And you lose what, weeks of time?
Weeks of time and millions of dollars in electricity. The MRC protocol specifically manages that multipath synchronization when a cluster fails.
It's like rival race car teams. You've got Ferrari and Mercedes spending fortunes on secret engines,
Yeah.
but then they show up to the track and realize it's just dirt and potholes.
That is a perfect analogy.
Before they can even race, they have to put down their wrenches and pave the track together.
Yeah.
If the asphalt isn't smooth, the engine doesn't matter.
Exactly. They are admitting that the foundational network layer is the track. It has to be flawless, or their proprietary algorithms will just shake themselves to pieces.
And speaking of foundational necessities, the geographic energy map is totally flipping. Texas just passed California in utility-scale solar capacity.
Which is deeply ironic.
Right, Texas, the state of oil derricks and natural gas, is suddenly the clean energy king.
Yeah.
And let's be real, they aren't doing this for municipal carbon reduction goals.
Oh, not at all. It's pure, brutal pragmatism.
Because a gigawatt data center doesn't care about your politics, it just demands electrons.
Exactly. Building new natural gas peaker plants is too slow and geopolitically volatile. Utility-scale solar with massive battery storage is just a deployable, scalable way to feed the beast.
So we've got GPUs in space, glass replacing copper, and Texas becoming a solar state. But all of this physical stuff is really just in service of the software, right?
Right, the minds inside the machines. And what they are actually doing with this compute is where things get truly wild.
Yeah, let's pivot to the benchmarks in the dispatch, because the finish line is just sprinting away from us.
Yeah.
Opus 4.7 just took the top spot on the refactoring leaderboard.
With a score of 48.57, completely beating GPT 5.5 codecs.
Okay, for the non-coders out there, what is refactoring, and why is it so much harder than just writing a new script?
Writing code from scratch is like working in a vacuum. The AI sets its own logic, makes its own clean structure. It's straightforward.
But refactoring is different.
Very. Imagine a legacy codebase at a major bank. Hundreds of programmers have touched it over a decade. It's a tangled mess of patches, workarounds, and deprecated functions.
It's basically a massive, fragile Jenga tower.
Exactly. If you pull the wrong block, the whole application goes down.
So what does the AI have to do?
It has to look at that Jenga tower, deeply comprehend the intent of all those past human programmers, understand how every piece interacts, and rewrite it all to be faster and cleaner.
Without breaking a single thing.
Right. It requires immense contextual awareness. Opus dominating this shows AI is moving from being a fast typist to a senior systems architect.
But it's not just getting better at coding, it's getting better at governing itself. The newsletter talks about model spec mid-training.
This is a huge breakthrough in alignment.
Alignment being how we make sure the AI doesn't do harmful or dangerous stuff.
Right. The old way was usually applied at the very end of training. Stuff like RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback.
I like the analogy for the old way. It's like letting a dog run loose, eat garbage all day, and then slapping a heavy muzzle on it at the end so it can't bite anyone.
That's very accurate. The underlying model still learns the toxic patterns. It's just being heavily penalized for outputting them.
So the danger is still inside the dog.
Exactly. But with model spec mid-training, they integrate the behavioral guidelines, basically the syllabus of its values, right into the middle of the training run.
So updating the analogy, instead of muzzling an adult dog, mid-training is teaching the puppy not to bite while its brain is still forming.
Yes. It internalizes those ethics as part of its fundamental worldview. It makes the system vastly more robust against, malicious users trying to jailbreak it with clever prompts.
It sounds almost invincible.
Yeah.
But the dispatch does give us a reality check with the program bench results.
Yes, this is a very necessary dose of humility.
Program bench asks these models to rebuild an entire code base from nothing but a binary file. No human source code, just machine language.
It is reverse engineering at the absolute highest difficulty.
Explain the translation leap there. Why does binary trip them up?
Well, human coders write in languages like C++ or Rust. That's the source code. But a computer processor only understands electrical signals, ones and zeros.
The binary.
Right, so a compiler program translates the human code into the binary executable file.
It bakes the cake.
Yes, compiling is baking the cake. The flour, eggs, and sugar are irreversibly transformed. Program Bench hands the AI the baked cake and says, reverse the thermodynamic process.
Tell me exactly how many eggs were used and what brand of flour.
Exactly. It wants the AI to perfectly rewrite the original human source code, and it's incredibly difficult.
Which is why Opus 4.7 got a score of exactly 0% fully solved on this benchmark.
Right. It proves that no matter how fast we run, there are still rungs above us on the ladder. The problems scale just as fast as the compute.
Which leads us to a development that feels less like software and more like biology. Claude-managed agents are now, quote, dreaming overnight.
This is pure biomimicry. It's fascinating.
I have to read that twice. The AI is reviewing its session histories, filtering data, and curating shared memories. Mechanically, how does code dream?
Well, think about your biological brain. During the day, you're bombarded with sensory input. If you tried to hold all that in active short-term memory, you'd be overwhelmed.
Right.
So during REM sleep, your brain consolidates memories. It reviews the day, discards the noise, and encodes the important lessons into long-term memory.
You literally sleep on it and wake up smarter.
Exactly. And for a digital agent interacting with thousands of employees all day, the problem is identical. Its context window, its short-term memory just fills up with noise.
So what does the digital dreaming process actually look like?
They use specialized vector databases for off-hours consolidation. While the human workforce sleeps, the AI clusters review the daily logs. They extract successful problem-solving paths, toss out the dead ends, and update a shared semantic memory bank.
So when everyone logs back in the next morning, the whole swarm of AI agents has fundamentally evolved.
Yes, they've internalized the collective lessons of the day before.
And while the AI is dreaming at night, it's also quietly creeping into our daily lives. Google Chrome is now silently installing 4 gigabytes of Gemini Nano onto desktop hard drives.
Seamlessly and ubiquitously.
Which is a massive security implication, right? You open your laptop, and without you doing anything, a 4GB AI model is just living natively on your machine.
It's a huge shift from AI as a destination website to AI as an ambient atmosphere.
And this brings up a great point from a subscriber named Stuart Fielden. He says this silent install is the ultimate friction point for corporations.
His analysis is spot on.
Why is that? Because having AI run locally seems like a great productivity boost.
For you or me at home, yes. But imagine you are the chief information security officer for a defense contractor or a hospital.
Oh.
Suddenly, every single employee has a 4GB AI sitting on their work laptop, perfectly capable of reading local files and summarizing proprietary emails.
That is an immediate catastrophic data exposure risk.
Exactly. Big organizations have strict compliance laws and privacy regulations. They can't just let an embedded intelligence roam free on local networks.
So Fielden is saying the real bottleneck isn't the tech itself anymore. The tech is being forced onto our hard drives. The bottleneck is bureaucracy.
Yes. The algorithm is moving at the speed of light, but it's slamming into the speed of human legal departments.
We have to write the handbook, figure out what data the AI can touch, and decide who takes legal responsibility for the output.
It takes time, but Fielden points out this actually creates a massive window of opportunity for the individual worker.
How so?
Because while the company is slowly figuring out the red tape, the smart employee is learning the tools on their own time.
Right, developing fluency in prompting and agent management.
Exactly. So when the legal department finally clears the tech, the workers who already mastered that safe speed will just instantly outpace everyone else, adapt or become obsolete.
And this whole concept of hyperacceleration is also spilling out of the digital space into human biology.
The barrier between the digital and biological substrates is just dissolving.
Neuralink is totally rebuilding their surgical robot so it can reach any region of the brain. The newsletter says they're generalizing the physical brain implant the same way Anthropic generalized cognition.
It's a really powerful comparison.
Break that down for me. What was the robot doing before?
The early versions were highly localized. They targeted specific outer regions like the motor cortex just to let a paralyzed person move a computer cursor.
Right, reading surface level signals.
But the brain is deeply complex. Things like severe depression or memory loss reside deep within the brain's architecture.
So by making the robot able to reach anywhere,
they are shifting from a specialized medical device to a universal I/O port for human biology. They are treating the brain like a hardware node that just needs a generalized interface to read and write data.
We're basically applying software patches to flesh and bone.
We really are.
And it gets even more visceral. Amazon pharmacy kiosks are going to start dispensing Ozempic pills from street corner vending machines.
As the author says, the future of metabolism is a vending machine on the corner.
It's so dystopian, but perfectly logical here. You just swipe your biometric ID and grab a compound that radically alters your endocrine system right next to where you'd buy a soda.
We are commodifying our internal biology, treating it like a hot swappable software state.
But ironically, while we treat our bodies like hardware, we're starting to treat our digital data like physical, sovereign territory.
Yes, the shifting of global borders.
The European Commission is looking at rules to restrict U.S. cloud platforms from processing sensitive EU government data. The phrase they use is, sovereignty is the next constraint after compute.
Which fundamentally changes the geopolitical value of data.
Right. Like, historically, sovereignty was just physical land. Then it expanded to oceans and airspace.
But now the EU is realizing that the raw data generated by its citizens is its most valuable sovereign resource. Because data is the fuel for the AI models.
So if a European hospital generates health data and an American AI processes it in Texas or in orbit,
Who owns the cure that the AI discovers? The EU is saying, you can't just mine our data for patterns without paying a royalty. It's like letting a foreign company mine your gold.
so they're throwing up digital border walls, demanding data localization. It's a border war fought with compliance laws.
And this massive shift in infrastructure is forcing old tech to find new jobs, like LiDAR.
Oh yeah, LiDAR, the laser pulsing stuff. We thought that was just going to be for self-driving robo-taxis.
Right, but autonomous vehicles pivoted heavily toward pure vision AI. So LiDAR is having the second act in heavy industry, babysitting 800-foot wind turbines and 1,500-ton shipyard gantries.
Why do you need lasers for a crane? Can't a human just look out the window?
Not when you're building gigawatt data centers and massive infrastructure. You're lifting 1,000-ton steel components hundreds of feet up. Human depth perception and reaction times just aren't precise enough, especially in high winds.
So the LiDAR gives the control systems real-time, millimeter-perfect spatial awareness.
Exactly. It removes biological latency from the construction process.
So if you step back and look at 2026, it's wild. You're grabbing a metabolic override from a vending machine. A laser-guided autonomous crane is building a turbine above you to power a local AI cluster. And your brain implant connects to a local AI that's legally barred from sending your data to the U.S.
It's a completely new operational matrix for human existence, and it triggers what the dispatch calls the grand repricing.
Every market, every institution is scrambling. Look at Wall Street. Morgan Stanley is launching crypto trading on E-Trade at 50 basis points.
Which is incredibly significant. A basis point is 1/100%, so that's a 0.5% fee.
Undercutting the native crypto exchanges that charge like 1 or 2%.
Legacy finance is capitulating. They are slashing their margins just to capture the sheer volume of capital flowing into digital assets.
But the repricing is hitting entire countries too. South Korea just passed Canada to become the 7th largest stock market in the world,
Purely propelled by global demand for AI silicon.
which is a crazy macro shift. Canada is massive, built on oil, timber, stable banking.
Bedrock assets of the 20th century. But today, the ultimate wealth generator is the capacity to manufacture the physical substrate of cognition. South Korea controls the choke points in the silicon supply chain.
So capital markets are radically revaluing them. Proximity to the Silicon Forge is the new global wealth metric.
And this brings us to the diplomatic level.
Right, the Trump-Xi summit.
Yeah.
And we really need to state right off the bat, we're just looking at the facts presented in the newsletter here. No political endorsements from either of us.
It's absolutely completely neutral. We're just analyzing the geopolitical game theory as it's written in the dispatch.
Right, so Washington and Beijing are weighing official AI talks at this upcoming summit. The goal is to keep the digital arms race from going kinetic.
It's Cold War game theory applied to algorithms.
Walk me through that. Why does a software model need a presidential summit?
Because the advantage of getting to generalize superintelligence first is total economic and military dominance. It creates a volatile security dilemma.
Like if Nation A thinks Nation B is about to turn on a super AI.
Nation A faces immense pressure to launch a preemptive physical strike on Nation B's data centers before that AI comes online and neutralizes Nation A's defenses.
Mutually assured destruction, but for data centers.
Exactly. Artificial intelligence is the new ultimate deterrent. They need a red telephone for AI so a digital race doesn't accidentally trigger a hot war.
The stakes are literally as high as they get. And right as this is happening, the newsletter drops one final piece of news that is just surreal.
The PURISU initiative.
Right. The Department of War is unsealing the skies. PURISU stands for Presidential Unsealing and a Reporting System for UAP Encounters.
UAP being unidentified anomalous phenomena, what we used to call UFOs.
And again, we're remaining totally neutral on the politics here, but this is a massive, coordinated records release. Tens of millions of documents, decades of observations, all being declassified under a directive to publish files related to alien and extraterrestrial life.
The timing of this is just extraordinary.
It's pure poetry. In the exact same month, we are launching our own non-human intelligence, these gigawatt AI models, into space to think in a vacuum. The government throws open the archives on potential extraterrestrial non-human intelligence.
The author of the newsletter captures it perfectly. The truth may be out there, but so are the next data centers.
We are expanding our cognitive footprint into the stars at the exact moment we start formally looking for who else is out there.
Which leaves us with a truly profound question.
It really does. Because we know Anthropic's models are dreaming overnight now.
Yeah.
Curating memories, finding hidden correlations while we sleep. So what happens when these orbital AI minds floating in space with no biological fatigue, processing billions of parameters a second, are fed all tens of millions of these declassified PURISU documents?
When it reviews 80 years of radar data and pilot reports,
will it spot mathematical patterns in the cosmos that our human brains just couldn't see? Will our very first true communication with whatever's out there be handled by a machine dreaming in orbit?
It forces us to completely redefine our position in the universe.
It really does. The outro music is by Rainbow, our resident 6 Android girl band from near-future Bavet, Cambodia.
They're amazing.
They are the undisputed baddest band in the universe, and today's song is called Moody Lo-Fi Reflection. All finished songs are performed live, using the Abacus platform by the band's creator. Human performance in the age of AI. Reclaiming your humanity from the algorithm. Be sure to share the playlist with someone who has the mental bandwidth to absorb these provocative ideas. Links are in the description below. Enjoy the music. Thanks for tuning in.